Right, my name's David Swanson. It is Inauguration Day, although he was officially inaugurated yesterday. It's also Martin Luther King holiday, although it is back on the 15th that he would have been 84 years old had he not been killed up until this point. There's an incredible crowd here. Nothing like 4 years ago, but a crowd that outsizes anything we've seen for activism, including the opposition to the Iraq War before it started. I mean, the kind of crowd, people getting up and filling the metro parking lots in the exurbs at 4 in the morning to be here for nothing, to be here to celebrate an individual, to gawk at a celebrity for nothing. If we had this kind of crowd and this kind of effort, even for a single day, around any single issue that these people fantasize they're here to cheer for, we would actually have a victory on that issue, right? If this kind of crowd turned out for fair housing and lending for minorities, or for good schools in poor neighborhoods, or for an end to wars, we would have it. We would get it through that size mobilization and the efforts that would inevitably follow in the days and weeks. We would have it. So there's an element of frustration among us here to push for policy change, for substantive change, to see the kind of effort people are willing to go to, many of them very well-intentioned, for nothing. And so I like to think of this more as Martin Luther King Jr. Day than as Inauguration Day.
I'd like to ask one question about Dr. King. He's very well remembered, although he is, of course, martyred as a civil rights hero. I think that his record on opposing U.S. militarism and his thoughts about the economy and poverty are somewhat less known. Is there an interconnect with the issues people are talking about here in this park today and Dr. King's legacy, or what he would have hoped for to be his legacy?
Well, I, for one, and I think almost if not everyone else here, will be speaking about racism and materialism and militarism, the three giant evils that Dr. King spoke against. And he spoke against them not as a laundry list, but as an integrated illness that afflicted our society. That we need to take on, he said, and was right, and it is still true today, the integrated madness of materialism, militarism, and racism. And we have to have an integrated movement in terms of race and other demographics, which we are struggling with mightily, and in terms of policies. I mean, we need to be taking on abuses of immigrants, abuses of the poor in our own country, as well as abuses of those abroad, because they are all connected. We're going after a cultural change. We're going after the mindset that allows the incredible incarceration, the death penalty, the police abuses at home and abroad. And, you know, the NRA was smart enough to buy a political party. Lockheed Martin bought two. And so we have, you know, weapons sales abroad. We have a State Department that functions as a marketing arm of the weapons industry. We sell weapons that far outstrip domestic gun sales to any form of government, to dictatorships and democracies and so-called democracies alike, with all of the blowback and all of the carnage that inevitably follows. And we don't talk about that enough, because it's okay with both parties, and we've cleaned it up and we've called it collateral damage and targeted life removals and so forth.
Kinetic actions.
Yes, so we have a situation where a president openly goes through a list of men, women, and children every other Tuesday and picks which ones to murder and orders them murdered and has them murdered. And the vast majority of the people killed are not even known by name when they're targeted, and the vast majority are not even
in fact
targeted.
Civilians, as we understand it.
Those who were in the wrong place. Yeah, I mean, there's a problem with the civilian distinction, because people resisting illegal occupations of their country are not, you know, it's not forgivable to murder them either.
Right.
But
just they happen to be male, and they
but
get
when you're targeting, you know, someone guilty of suspicious behavior, and then you're targeting whoever shows up to try to rescue the injured. And the vast majority of the people you're killing, men, women, and children, were not targeted at all. You're dealing with a program of out-of-control murder, of mass murder. And to ask the president to devise a set of rules for the proper conduct of this process, I mean, if
But wasn't he going to do that if an evil Republican came into office, but then because he was reelected, he decided that the rules were not necessary because in his wisdom, he had the right oversight, especially with CIA and DOD at his back?
Well, they put out the word that Obama was interested in working on a set of rules to control this program should an evil Republican get hold of it, which functioned, of course, as a campaign for his reelection. You know, you don't want a Republican to get hold of this. You don't want us to have to come up with rules for it. Reelect me, right? And now he's been reelected, and yet they've now announced that they're going to come up with rules. Not laws, mind you, right? This is not out of the legislative branch. This is not out of international law or treaty. This is not out of the courts. This is out of the administration, overseen by what Thomas Jefferson would have called a temporary despot, a 4-year king, an 8-year king. And this is someone who came in following expanded abuses of this sort by George W. Bush, who rewrote laws with Office of Legal Counsel memos and signing statements, and President Obama came in and said, well, I'm going to pick which ones of those to follow and which ones to undo. This was to be the transparent presidency with the meetings live streamed on the internet and so forth. It's been the exact opposite. The secrecy has far outstripped Nixon or anyone else. The claims in court of secrecy to shut down investigations of Bush-era crimes and Obama-era crimes, and the new claims of secrecy. I mean, we've given war-making to a secret agency. The CIA conducts war-making with its own drone program. Well, we know that so-called special forces, which are not special in terms of a smallness of size any longer, but special in terms of operating outside the rule of law, are in perhaps 80, 90 countries. I mean, it's gone up from the Bush era. We know of drones being used and other airstrikes being used in a dozen or more countries, and probably others we're not told about. The blowback certainly includes side effects such as the violence in Mali, stemming in large part from the violence in Libya, but there's been blowback in terms of the safe, pilots of the drones. The pilots don't just operate in the United States. They have to have local pilots as well for liftoff and landing. Sometimes we learn where these drone pilots are because they're attacked and killed. We learned that a U.S. base in Afghanistan has been housing drone pilots because someone goes in there and blows himself up to kill them. So there is that blowback. We also know that post-traumatic stress disorder is a problem for drone pilots in the United States at their desks where they leave the base in Nevada and drive past the sign that says, drive carefully, it's the most dangerous part of your day. Well, it isn't the most dangerous part of their day because they watch families for weeks and then kill them. And that's difficult.